I have watched the first 2 episodes of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, and I've got a lot to say about it. Before we get started, we're on our way to 2,500 subs, and we're almost at 2,400. If 30 of you watching this video who've never seen my channel before subscribe, it would mean the world to me, and also I would just love to have you here. So get us to 2,400 in this video. Also leave your comments. I read every single one and most likely will respond, and I really got to know what you guys thought about these first 2 episodes. With that out of the way, let's kind of just break down what happens in this show so far, because I want to touch on a lot of different aspects of this show, not necessarily just the plot. We start off this episode with these pirates, and they're kind of hijacking a ship for credits, and there ends up being no credits. They kind of overthrow their captain and throw him in jail, which we will meet him again later on in the second episode. We then transfer over to this planet called AT ATTAN, which is where we're going to be spending a majority of this first and second episode, and I really like the name of it being AT ATTAN, kind of like being a reference to an AT-AT or an AT AT. And something really strange that felt weird definitely watching it was the fact that this kind of reminded me a lot of Earth. But I think that's kind of the point. This is supposed to be this super structured, very safe and encouraging environment, and it reminds me a lot of Earth. Before we get too far into this, I do want to acknowledge the opening with the pirates was very reminiscent of A New Hope, with the Imperials boarding the rebel ship. I also think the CG in this show is very good so far. Obviously there's going to be hiccups here and there, but it felt very Star Wars. In this first episode, we meet our main characters, with the point of view character being this character named Wim. Wim is obsessed with Jedi history, and I loved looking at his tablet, seeing all the references to the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and just the Jedi in general. His best friend, and honestly my favorite character so far, and probably will be a lot of people's favorite character, is Neel, and he is the same race or species as Max Rebo from Jabba's sail barge. He's hilarious, he's adorable, and I can't wait to see more of him. The whole premise of this first episode is the fact that Wim doesn't necessarily want to just grow up and be a part of the workforce. He's growing up and he's starting to have to decide what he wants to do with his life, but all of the options that he's been given and this test that he has to take just doesn't sound appealing. He wants to explore, he wants to be a Jedi, he wants to do something cool that he enjoys. But at the same time, there's some weird stuff going on with his home planet. We look up into the sky, there are no stars, there's just this giant barrier. We learn later on that no starships go in or out, and this entire planet is completely bodyguarded by all of these different protocol droids. So yeah, right off the bat, there's a very interesting mystery going on surrounding this planet called AT ATTAN, and things that happen in the second episode also kind of delve into that a little bit more. We also meet the other 2 main kids from this show, and that is KB and Fern. KB's got this really cool visor on that reminds me of Lobot from Empire Strikes Back, and Fern is like your stereotypical kind of going against the rules girl, and she's really interesting. I think she's very brave, and she holds the group together even though Wim is kind of the main character. The comparison to Goonies has been drawn a lot with this show, and yeah, I totally see it, but I don't think it's a bad thing. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think it's great. Wim finds this ancient looking device thing on the way to take his test to find out what job he's going to be doing for the rest of his life, and it causes him to miss the test, but it's okay because this is far more interesting to him. Him and Neel, along with KB and Fern, go investigate this thing later at night, and Wim thinks it's a Jedi temple, but it actually turns out to be a spacecraft ship. This was very cool, again, very Goonies, but also Star Wars, so I'm really loving it. And before the show came out, I mean, there was basically no hype in my opinion. I mean, maybe you were excited, but me personally, I was always going to watch this show because, again, I love Star Wars, but this show didn't really hype me up in any sort of way, especially with the lack of marketing, with only 1 or 2 trailers, which I didn't even watch the second trailer. But hear me out. Everything I've seen so far with this first episode leading up to the end has been very entertaining. Inside this ship, Wim accidentally activates it and they launch themselves into space, allowing for the perfect cliffhanger for the first episode, setting up what this show is going to be. It's a bunch of ragtag kids who come together, finding themselves in this unfortunate circumstance and finding their way home, finding out who they are, and yeah, just good stuff that makes a good story. One of the most interesting things that I think happens in this first episode at the end is they breach the barrier. They finally see stars for the first time. There seems to be a really big mystery going on with their home planet, and they don't even know about it. They didn't even know that other stars and planets existed in the proximity that they do. So they're being shielded from something, and we get more details on that in this second episode. While they're flying through space, they meet this droid who seems to be the controller of the ship, and I love the personality that this droid brings. I think it's very fun and it kind of allows the kids to grow into themselves, because we have, for one, Fern, who is kind of pretending to be super brave, but she is at the same time. Although she does probably want to go back home, she kind of takes command of this little crew, and she becomes the captain of the ship again. They're trying to find a way back home, but this droid has no memory or no knowledge of their existing home planet, again leading to the fact that there's a big mystery going on. They end up going to the spaceport that's controlled by pirates, in fact the pirates that we saw at the very beginning of the first episode. Now Wim has all these credits that he's willing to give out for food and help and stuff, but these credits are actually Republican credits, which are far more valuable than the current currency. Making me wonder, has AT ATTAN, their home planet, been unaffected by the Empire? Have they been hidden since day one? That's super interesting in my opinion, and I can't wait to see more about it. But they're being chased by these pirates now because they have this super valuable currency, and they end up being captured by the pirate crew from the first episode, who overthrew their captain and threw him in jail. The kids end up in the same jail cell as the former pirate captain, and we find out, or supposedly find out, that he is a Jedi, and they're going to break out and find their way back home. And boom, that's the first 2 episodes. Taking a show that didn't have tons of hype surrounding it, that is also focusing around a younger demographic, but also being someone who is 24 years old, kind of still is very exciting and doesn't seem too childlike. I mean, I would say Star Wars Rebels is one of the more childlike Star Wars shows that appeal to a younger audience. I think this is way more mature than that, but it also has this feeling that makes you feel like a kid again, exploring, finding out who you are, and going on these adventures, and we're only 2 episodes in. I will say the second episode was really short, about 25 minutes before the credits, which again, I'm not a big fan of that, and especially considering we only have, I think, 8 episodes in this season, the thing needs to be longer, which I think Disney and Star Wars, and especially Marvel, is realizing that's not the way to go with their television series, so things are going to be changing in the future. But this show's been in development for a long time, so I kind of can forgive them there. And if we want to forget about that, everything else in this show has been really enjoyable so far, and I'm really excited to see the next episode. Most importantly, let's have a conversation down in the comments. I want to know what you guys think. I want to talk to you guys about this show, where you think it's going to head, and what's the mystery surrounding AT ATTAN, and is Jude Law's character actually a Jedi? Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Leave a like, it would mean so much to me, and I will see you all very, very soon.